Tēnā tātou e te whānau, kei ngā kahiko o te Nehenehenui, tēnā rā tātou katoa. E mihi ana ki a koutou i tēnei pō. Glad to have you guys on board for another engaging kōrero of te Puna kōrero o te Nehenehenui. I'm your host, Leon Hemera, and I'll be in the hot seat for the duration of this evening. Happy to be here with you, e te whānau. So today it was announced that Aotearoa will move into traffic lights setting orange at midnight tonight. What does that mean for Aotearoa? It does mean a lot as well. But in particular, what does that mean for us here in our marae in Te Nehenehenui as we try and navigate a lot of our marae trying to reopen? And that's exactly what we're going to talk about this evening, and I'm really happy and glad to have my awesome guests on tonight from various marae. E mihi ana ki a koutou, tēnā koutou ngā whānau o ngā marae o te Nehenehenui. Tēnā koutou.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora tātou. And we have, actually, what I'll do is we'll go around the squares and we'll get our panelists to introduce themselves and which marae they belong to, and we'll start with the one to the top right. That's Anne. So kia koe te wā, Anne. If you could introduce yourself and which marae you represent tonight. Tēnā koe.
Tēnā koe. Kia ora koutou, Anne Maria Tainui Vine, and I belong to the Te Aharoa marae up in the Rangitoto Hills. Kia ora everybody.
Kia ora, Anne. Nice to have you on board this evening. Thank you for joining us. And we'll have next, we'll be down the bottom there, Shannon. Kia koe te wā.
Kia ora koutou. Ko Shannon Manawati tōku ingoa. Ko Ngāti Rora te hapu. And te kuiti pā te
Oh, I think we just lost Shannon there for a while. That's all right. He'll come back to us. Oh. Tēnā koe, Shannon. Welcome back. If you could finish off your intro there, cousin. We just lost you for a second. We'll come back to Shannon. Wiki Wira. Tēnā koe, and we're glad to have you back again this week for another Puna kōrero. Kia koe te wā.
Mauri ora, e mihi ana ki a koe, Kaz. He uri tēnei o Ngāti Maniapoto, Ngāti Porau, me Ngāti Haua ki Taumarunui. Ko ki wira Pōkehā tōku ingoa. I'm from Miri marae, but tonight I'll be talking about our marae in Mōkau, Māniaroa.
Kia ora, tēnā koe, Wiki Wira. Nice to have you back again. Sorry, Shan, we just lost you on your last intro. You're back in now. If you want to record it off our whānau out there, kia koe te wā. Oh, I think okay, ka pai. We're having a little bit of audio issues with Shannon. Kei te pai, kei te pai. We'll get into our kōrero e te whānau with Anne and Wiki Wira. Now, as we know, we've been in a COVID world for 2 years now, pretty much this month, and it's been a long time since a lot of our marae have closed their doors, closed the gates, and a lot of our whānau out there have been really missing our marae. So what I want to ask you two, and this will be straight out the back, and I'll come to you first, Wiki Wira. The first question out this evening is how hard has it been for our marae being closed for so long during COVID? Yeah, how's it been for you guys at Māniaroa?
Yeah, it's been actually, pretty hard. I think the hardest thing for us is not having the opportunity to be with each other. We're a very close-knit whānau in Mōkau, and we have many beneficiaries and uri all around Aotearoa and globally, so not having the opportunity to have a common safe place that we could come together was really hard. It also took a hit, not having bookings for our marae, knowing that we're so rural, we don't often have other ways of supporting ourselves other than selling raffle tickets. So raffle tickets have been going off the shelves lately. But I think the other thing that it offered was it expanded us into online communications and how do we connect with our people through our Facebook pages and through different means. So in every storm, there's always opportunity as well. Yeah, definitely.
Kia ora wiki wira. And the same question for you, Anne, for you guys at Te Horoa. How hard has it been for your marae being closed for so long due to COVID?
I think one of the things that has hit us the most is having to say no to whānau that I'm sorry, you can't use the marae, it's not available, or no, you can't even use outside because it's a construction site now. And then you'd have those that are asking if they can borrow mattresses, or other bits and pieces. And that gets really hard as well. And it's tricky, you want to help, but you just can't help. So for us now to have that open and not have to say no to anybody anymore, it's great. So yeah, it's been a hard road.
Kia ora, tautoko. Kia ora for that. And I'll ask you too, Shannon, if you're back. Can you hear us over there, Shannon? Get the pai, ka pai, we are back. And the question, bro, is how hard has it been for our marae being closed for so long during COVID?
Yeah, it's been really hard. It's had a huge effect on how we are able to carry out and practice our culture and our tikanga. Like that's what's been said before. From the outset, we closed the marae, and so people weren't actually allowed on the marae. And obviously, with people having tangihanga and that sort of thing, that was really hard. That was hard telling our whānau that they couldn't come on the marae, they couldn't, at the very least, bring the tūpapaku up onto the marae. We actually closed it completely, and then as things sort of progressed, we did eventually open up the marae for whānau just to bring the tūpapaku up on the burial day and spend a small amount of time in front of the whare before they were taken to the urupa. And that was a little bit better, but then you had the additional hardship of people having to cope with the tangihanga itself at home. So, and we initially had told our people they couldn't use any of the equipment and that off the marae. So we changed things as we moved along, and we realised that it's just too hard to just say no to our whānau across the board, and eventually we got to the stage where we even allowed the whānau to use the kitchen to cook kai, because you can imagine having to cook kai and all that sort of thing at home. It's quite difficult if you don't have the equipment, and feeding people coming to your whare when you're. We're very capable people, but it just was hard for a lot of our whānau. And we had a lot of mate during this time that we've been closed. 9 months we've been closed. So yeah, I'm sort of glad we've gotten over that period of time, because it was creating a lot of issues for our people.
Kia ora, bro. Yeah, tautoko tēnā. And I guess I just wanna mihi to you as trustees of your respected marae, because it's not easy making those decisions. So big ups to you for doing the mahi that you do for your marae. So yeah. Mihi ana ki a koutou. Next question, this one's for you, Anne-Marie. So I guess over the last 2 years, it may have been, I don't know, maybe a blessing in disguise that the marae have been closed, because you guys have been under some real big renovations out there at Te Horoa. How's that been going? How's the renovations been going? And has it been a sort of a blessing in disguise so you guys can get that mahi done?
I'm not sure about, the blessing in disguise is that thanks to PGF, we had the money to do what we needed to do. So that is a blessing. But when the trust committee first got together, we were all brand new. So we visited the marae to have our first meeting, and that was when we saw the state of the marae. And for some of us, we hadn't been there for a while, so it was quite a shock. But yeah, the floor was on a lean, paintwork was peeling off. It was just a shame to see it like that. It had been neglected over the years. And it's really hard because it's hard for the whānau to get together, do the work. You either don't have the tools, you don't have the money to buy the resources to do what you need to do. So once we were able to apply for this grant and we had it all approved, well, it was just a matter of we got all the contractors together, invited them on to the marae with the pōwhiri, told them what we were doing, and they set the plan for us. The builder took over and he just said, this is how we'll put it together, and this is when he'll need to be there, when the next one will have to come in. And we just liaised with them and did that. And if we had some photos to show you of what it was like beforehand and what it looks like now, you just think, wow, it looks like a brand new building, but it was not. We managed to hold on to the old whare that our tupuna had handed down to us to use, and we just gave it a great big facelift. It had to be repiled. That was the biggie. It had new ceiling put in. It already had a new roof put on a few years ago, so we didn't have to do that. And then we just insulated it, put in new windows, doors, carpet, painted inside and out, and it just looks brand new. It looks amazing. So a blessing in disguise, absolutely. And thanks to PGF, that's what we were able to do.
Kia ora, tautoko there, kōrero. Yeah, big thanks to our whānau there at PGF for that funding, because a lot of our maraes have gained from that funding, and even my two marae as well. So yeah, it's been a blessing for all of our marae, actually all over the motu. A lot of marae all over the motu have gained from that fund. So yeah, it's absolutely beautiful, and your fellas marae looks absolutely beautiful out there. And it's all of that brand new concrete. It looks absolutely stunning. So big up to the whānau out there. Ka pai. Let's have another question, and this will be for all of you. And this could be a big question, but the pātai is, how did you come to the decision of reopening your marae? It must have been wānanga after wānanga, hui after zui after zui. But yeah, how did you guys come to that decision of opening those gates? And I'll ask you first, Wikiwira, and then we'll come back around the circle.
Yeah, because definitely all the zuis in the world. And as you know, with any good trustee team, we talk for hours. I think the good thing about our trustees at the moment is that we all have different ideas, and we create a space where we can actually just talk very upfront with each other. People might call it arguing. We call it debating, but it's a healthy debate, I think. And if you're not debating, it means that other people are not being heard. So there was a lot of kōrero amongst us about how to keep our people safe. And then I think the decision came down to wanting to open up and make it available for our people. But the first thing we wanted to do was try and add some layers of protection around them. So we decided the first booking that we had coming up was actually for a vaccination station. And we knew that it was something that was needed for our community at that time. And that's probably what pushed us at that time, was wanting to support our people to be safer in our communities and seeing the opportunity to start connecting with each other again. Yeah.
Kia ora. Kia ora, Wikiwira. Yeah, I can imagine. Many robust debates as there is in a few of our maraes, but nothing a good cup of tea won't fix, at the end of the day. Ka pai, and actually come to you, Anne, back to that question is, how did you guys come to the decision to reopen Te Ahoro Marae?
Well, originally we set a date and we thought, right, let's go for it, let's do this, and then COVID kicks in again, so we cancel it. And I guess the big thing for us was around the fact that we really wanted as many members of the whānau to attend the opening as possible. We were so proud of what we had achieved. We wanted to show it off to everybody. But unfortunately, COVID just would not allow us. In the end, we decided, let's set a date, let's go with that. We made 2 plans on how we would go about having the opening. And so the first one was that we would do it in 2 groups so that we could, because at that stage, nothing had changed. You still could only have up to 25 in a group if there was non-vaccinated, and I think it was up to 100 if they were vaccinated. So we decided to do it in 2 groups so non-vaccinated people could join that small group. And we just wanted to make sure that kaumātuas, those that had really close links to the marae over a period of years, been involved with other developments that have been going on, that they were on the priority list. And then anybody that each of us trustees felt had been our supporters all the way through. And for me, that included consultants that we had used amongst the whānau that were really instrumental with the project. And so we set that date. We went for that, and then of course a week before the reopening, the government changes the rules, and we thought, let's just go with the plan as it is now. We just get it open and go for it, and that's what we did.
Kia ora, and yeah, I can see a lot of that back and forth going, and then at the end of the day, you just got to make that date and go straight up the guts with it. And at the end, that's probably the best way. So it was really good. Same question for you, Shan, up at Te Kuitipa. What was your guys' process, and how did you get to the decision to finally reopen the doors up there?
Yeah, so sort of late last year, we had a hui with our people, and initially the conversation was around if we decided to open at that time, were we going to use the implementation of vaccine passes. And the decision at that time was to, if we were going to open and then use, put in place vaccine passes and use them. But as things progressed, the case numbers in our community were extremely high. If you can remember, I think at one stage there we had the highest amount of cases in the country. So that sort of put things back for us. And as we came into the new year, we thought if the cases are still at a high level in the community here, we weren't prepared to open until those cases dropped. So as we sort of progressed, and then we had another meeting in the beginning of this year, and the numbers were high. So we decided to remain closed until the first weekend of April. When we actually met as trustees to discuss if we were going to open or not and how things were tracking. So I think also the thing that really helped us make the decision in reopening was the fact that they took away the mandates. So vaccine passes were no longer scanning, and all that sort of things were no longer. So that was pretty much a key factor in us actually opening, because we did realise that if we did use vaccine passes, that our people, there was still a bit of I suppose it was going to create a bit of controversy in regards to actually using that, and I knew it would be quite difficult to ask some of our whānau for vaccine passes, especially there was a lot of our whānau that were unvaccinated, so we knew that was going to cause a bit of difficulty trying to enforce that. So the mere fact that those mandates were lifted pretty much gave us the green light to reopen the marae.
Kia ora, Shan. And I must say, I was up there at your guys' karakia on Saturday for the reopening, and it was beautiful. Wairua in the whare that day, and having our kaumātua and our whānau back. Yeah, it was lovely. It was beautiful. It was beautiful that day. Ka pai te whānau. We've talked about what came to how you guys came to the decision to reopen the marae. Now the pātai is how was it received from the wairahapu and the whānau of the marae. Yeah, it would be cool if we could start. If we could come back to you, Wikiwira. Yeah, how did it receive for the whānau of the hapu and the marae of reopening?
Yeah, I think most of the whānau, like, we didn't have any complaints actually. We had a lot of whānau, asking when it was going to open because they really wanted to book in their kaupapa, which was really encouraging. And I think like the other two have said, the hardest thing was saying no to our people when they wanted to come home. And so we pretty much, everyone that has talked to us since has talked about how great it is to have the marae open, and now that our renovations have finished, it's an opportunity for people to come back and see the mahi that's been done, an opportunity to see that our marae will still be standing in 100 years' time, and that some of the things that have been around for ages are still there. And so I think that was the biggest thing for us, is that they understood what was going on in the pandemic and instead focused on manaakitanga.
Kia ora Wikiwira. Ka pai. And the same question for you, Anne. How was it received by the whānau and the hapu for Te Ahoroa? Were there any people not quite ready, or was everybody ready to open the gates? Yeah, how was that news received by the whānau?
We've had good feedback from everybody that I am aware of. I haven't heard anything negative yet. I think one of the big things too for us now with the reopening is that we are encouraging all whānau who have lost, loved ones along the way while the marae was closed, to now bring your photos in, come and have a look at the marae. We've already got bookings. People are already taking, whether it's just for 4 hours a day, whatever it is, they're all keen to come and have a look, which is just wonderful. And that's what it's all about. It's all about sharing with the whānau. So, but yeah, we had to rearrange the photos as well that were hanging up in the wharenui, and I was quite apprehensive about how the whānau would take to that, but it has been great. We gave them an explanation as to why we did it that way and why we changed things around, and they have just taken it on board. And like I say, there's been no negative remarks at all to date. And as you know, we filmed the reopening, so that was put out on our Facebook page, so everybody has seen that as well. And yeah, reception's been good. Yeah.
Ka pai, Anne. That's good to hear. Shannon, what about our whānau at Tikwiti Pa? Was the reception good for the news that we're opening back the gates?
Yeah, I think it's just been a general sense of relief that we are finally back open again. I mean, like I was saying earlier, I think a big part of our culture is tikanga, and also when we have our tangihanga, we want to be together. We want to be together on our marae so everyone can help and share in that grief with the bereaved family. So being able to do that again, that's really important for us as a people. And of course, like all other marae, there's many other types of occasions that are held on the marae: birthdays, unveilings, weddings, and that kind of thing. So yeah, I just think a big sense of relief, and I think everybody's just generally happy that the marae is now available to use.
Yeah, kia ora. Ka pai, tēnā koutou for that. Me mihi ana kia koutou e matakitaki mai ana marunga ipurangi. Big shout out to all of our viewers that are tuning in on our Facebook and our Twitter and our YouTube. Welcome to Te Puna Kōrero o Te Nehenehenui number 20. This is number 20, and tonight the kaupapa is looking at reopening our maraes. And you guys can send your guys pātai in down here in the comment section, and we'll do our utmost best to answer all the pātai that are coming through to our panelists. And we're lucky that we've got our beautiful panelists who are trustees of all their marae. We've got Anne from Te Ahoroa, we've got Wiki Wira from Maniaroa, and we've got Shannon here from Te Kuiti Pā. So we're lucky to have our guests here this evening answering our questions. So if you've got any at home, whānau, this is your chance, put them in, and we'll do our best to answer them all. But we'll keep going with my pātai here. And the next one is, what were the main things? What were the main things that you as trustees had to consider first before making that decision to open those gates? And we'll come back to you, Anne. I think we'll start with you, then we'll make our way back around.
I think it's pretty much as everybody else has touched on. The main decision around reopening is to get the place, the marae, open for people to use. It's to bring the whānau home. It's to, I'm a little bit lost for words here, but it is about the tikanga, and it is about the manaakitanga, and it's just about everything, and it's about sharing this one place that we all have to congregate and do whatever it is we have to do, whether it be tangihanga or whether it just be celebrations of some sort, or for meetings, it can be for anything. We used to have wānanga nights or weekends there on a regular basis. So now we're able to hold those again. And it is a feeling that we're over that hump. We've done what was necessary to keep the place going. And of course, we are still working on other things now. More projects will be coming along soon. But we've gotten through the main hump of what we needed to do. And now, whānau, we just want you to use the marae.
Kia ora, tēnā koe, Anne, tēnā koe. And the same question for you, Wiki Wira. What were the main things that you guys had to really consider before opening the doors at Maniaroa?
Yeah, I think the main thing that we were most worried about was, and that we had to consider was, how do we keep our people safe? And I suppose that comes down to some of the stuff that Shan's talking about in terms of mandates and vaccine passes. We wanted it to make it a space that all could be welcomed in, which was really important to us. And acknowledging that all of our whānau weren't on board with that kind of stuff. And so we wanted to make sure that people were okay to come back to our marae. The other thing that we had to consider was financials. While our marae are closed, the rates still need to be paid. The electricity, the water still has to be paid.
Yeah.
All of those kinds of things, insurances to ensure our marae is safe, those things still have to be paid. And after so many months of being closed, it meant that the coffers were starting to run low. So that definitely played a part in us making the decision to open again. Not that it's all about money, but for us, we have to maintain at least a level to keep our marae maintained and serviced.
Kia ora, Wiki Wira. Thank you for that. And same for you, Shan, what was the main things that you guys had to consider as trustees before opening up at Te Kuiti Pā?
Yeah, I think above all, why we've been closed for so long was pretty simple, really. It was safety of our people. So with that in mind, we also made the decision to open based on how things were in our community. I mean, COVID is still here. It's still here in our community, but it isn't as prevalent as it was Christmas and a few months ago. So, but the other thing that we've taken into consideration is that COVID's here and we have to live with it. I mean, we obviously couldn't continue to stay closed for long periods of time because, like it's been mentioned, bills need to be paid and other things need to be taken care of. And I suppose at some point you just have to say, well, we just have to live with what's going on around us and do our best, but still trying to maintain that safety for our people. I think if we had been open at earlier, the cases in our community would probably have tripled, I would have imagined. Because it would have been too hard to control the spread of the virus in a marae setting.
Mm.
I mean, we told our people to wear masks and all that sort of thing, but you'll see when you go to hui's that sometimes they're not wearing their masks and sometimes our people are not doing some of the things they're supposed to. Whether or not they forget or not, I'm not sure, but yeah, there's still that possibility of spreading the virus at hui's, but I think if we wear the masks and do all the things we're supposed to, that should be alleviated slightly. But yeah, it just come to a point in time where we really needed to reopen.
Kia ora. Kia ora, Shed. Yeah, you absolutely hit the nail on the head. A lot of our whānau have relaxed, I would say, our COVID practices. And it's as things start getting back to normal, we're gathering a lot more. So it's important that we keep up those practices. So on that note, as trustees, what's been the new measures, or if there have been existing measures for some of you, what's been the new measures moving forward for keeping the whānau safe when they go back to our marae? And I'll come to you first, Anne. What are your guys' new practices that you have in place at Te Aharoa to keep the whānau up there safe?
I'd have to say, honestly, we haven't even probably discussed that at this stage. The only thing I would have to say here is that we have always worked within the government guidelines. So whatever they have set for us, that's what we adhere to. And we encourage everyone to wear their masks. One of the things that got to me when we did the reopening was we didn't think that we would allow hongi to take place. But you know what? Everybody was in awe of the building, and they just all wanted to say thank you in their own way. And that when the pōwhiri itself had finished, they just all came in to hongi, and there was just nothing we could do to stop it, just nothing. And to be fair, we didn't want to. We just could not interfere with it. And so we think about trying to protect ourselves and keeping ourselves safe. We still tend to do the things that can compromise us. But I haven't heard of anybody getting sick from that, thank goodness. But it was a little bit of, oh my gosh, what are we going to do here? We just had to go with it. There was nothing else we could do. Yeah.
Kia ora, Anne. And same question for you, Wikiwira. What's the new guidelines and practices that you guys have put in place down at Māniaroa?
Well, I think we're quite lucky at Māniaroa because we have a big open marae ātea. A lot of ventilation from Tangaroa and Tāwhiri Mātea. And so, we make use of that space now. When we have any kaupapa at the marae, we encourage people to have outdoor kaupapa where they're permitting. And then we tend to put more of the mahi stuff inside and try and limit as many people around. But in particular, we've stopped hongi and whakarata for our pōwhiri. And instead we, sing a song, hareruia, and get together and break our tapu with kai. So that's kind of some ways that we're doing it. But I suppose the other thing that we're doing is that Māniaroa is a distribution centre. So we have, we're storing some of the gears, I suppose, to support our whānau in the community. We can give out rats tests, kai packs, whānau ora packs, and they're all up at the marae should people need them. So that's just one way that we're trying to make sure that our whānau are safe at the same time when they come in.
Ka pai, tēnā koe wiki wira.
Nice.
And I'm saying for you, Shannon, what's the practices that you guys have in place up at Te Kuiti Pā to keep our whānau safe?
Yeah, so we've opened under the the guidelines of the government. So mask wearing is still compulsory. Wearing masks, whether you're out the front or the back of the marae, especially in the kitchen. If you're cooking in the kitchen, make sure you wear masks. We did have a discussion around perhaps adopting what some of the marae up in Waikato are doing. So that is, before anybody is allowed entry onto the marae, they have to have a rat test. Obviously, there's implications around that scenario because you actually have to have a team of people to do that. Also, there's the resource and supply issue of the actual rat test. I mean, if you could imagine, if you had a large hui, you'd probably need 300-400 tests. And that would obviously create an issue for some of our whānau. But generally speaking, if whānau are willing and prepared to do the rat tests, then we've left that up to the whānau that have actually neuting the marae. So we've left that in their hands. And in actual fact, we have a tangi hanga at the marae at the moment. And that's in fact what the whānau decided to do was start rat testing manuhiri and also some of the whānau that were on the marae at the time. But yeah, we didn't want to actually enforce that because, like I said, there's some issues around actually carrying those procedures out. So, but it is an option there if whānau want to actually do that and they're able to get the resources and the manpower to do so, then that's there. But generally speaking, it's we follow the guidelines that have been set down, and I think obviously mask wearing is still compulsory. So that's a major thing that's implemented with the reopening.
Kia ora, Shannon. Thank you for that, Te Whānau. Just a quick reminder to our whānau that are tuned in on Facebook at home. You can put your guys' questions in the comment section, and we'll get our trustees from our marae, for our marae here to answer your guys' pātai. So kia kaha, put those questions in, and we'll do our utmost best to answer as many as we can. Rightio, Te Whānau. Wiki Wira touched a little bit on the financial impact for their marae. I'll ask Shannon and now, what has been the financial impact for you guys and up at Te Ahuroa? Because as we know, and Wiki Wira said, it's been a struggle for a lot of our marae out there. And a lot of them are really in the same boats. So how has it been with you guys at Te Ahuroa?
Well, it is a struggle. There is no two ways about it. It is definitely a struggle. And with the maraes being closed, well, of course, it makes it even harder. One of the things that we have introduced, we call it the $2 Club. And we are requesting that any member of our marae that's 18 years or older to join our $2 Club. And it means that all they have to put in is $2 a week forever. And that in itself would contribute to the maintenance, insurance, the power, the gas, everything, And if you worked it out, let's imagine you have, say, 700 members of the marae, and say 500 of them are 18 years and older. That's a lot of money. It's more money than the marae would need to keep going and to stay on top of anything that is required, really. But of course, getting people to take up that offer and to join the club is difficult. We just keep sending reminders out on our Facebook page and letting them know and reminding them, that we have these amenity bills to pay on an ongoing sense, so that we want them all to feel responsible as well. It's not just about tapping into money that the government make available for us. Actually, if you want this to still be here in another 100 years' time, which it will be if it's taken care of, this is what you can do to help. So yeah, it is a struggle. And I feel it's like as if we have to maintain the business side of the marae as well as the cultural aspect of it all.
Kia ora tina koe, Anne. O tira kia koutou te ahoro marae, mihi ana kia koutou. That's a fantastic way, yeah. That's a great idea, Anne. So big mihi to the whānau there. And Shan, yeah, how about our whānau at Tikuti Pā? How has the financial impact been since we've been closed up there?
Yeah, it's been huge actually. As you can imagine, being a larger marae, we have quite large overheads. And even though we haven't been operating normally, there's still bills to pay. And that money's got to come from somewhere. So much like what Anne's just talked about was $2. What's the $2? So no, we recently started up 100 club. We actually stole the idea from our whānau out at Pipi Moko Kohanui. So they have 100 club there. So basically you put $20 in per month and go into a monthly draw. And they, draw every month, and people win amount of money. And I suppose the allure there was, one, the money is going to go to the marae, but also they get an opportunity to win something in return. But yeah, realistically, I think all marae are in the same boat as that. When we've thought about this scenario, is you need a consistent income to operate, and we rely heavily upon koha that's received through the use of the marae, and basically we operate on that. So obviously, if you're not operating, you don't have any income. But it's a bit of a hard one. Maybe it's time, like Ian says, that people need to put their hands in their pocket and help their marae financially and bring in a consistent income. Because if the marae are to remain there and for the future generations, that's probably something that we all seriously need to look at.
Kia ora, Shan. Nā se wiki Weda's got something to add to the kōrero?
Yeah, just want to tautoko the kōrero that both of my whanaunga have talked about. And also wanted to add in the thanks that ourselves as trustees have for those who koha to us as well. But I know that during this time that we've been closed, for us as trustees, it's been a time where we have to look at opportunities, and I know that many others have too. Being a coastal marae, and also in between two big soon-to-be motorways, we've got the Awakino Gorge has now got flash new roads, even though still under repair, and soon to be the Mount Messenger on the other side moving into Ngāti Tama. So it's going to be a place where people come through a lot. And so as trustees, we had to think about what are some ways that we could potentially make jobs for our people. So talking with the people who do the roads, are you able to make sure that people from Moko or from Maniapoto have jobs on those roads? And then, if you have kaupapa to run as you're going through the roads, our marae is available to book. So we've been trying to market ourselves as much as we can, with as much integrity as we can for our people too. Kia ora.
Kia ora wiki Weda.
Yeah. Good luck. I hope that works. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like, it's one way to think outside the square, isn't it? You've got to go further afield than what we have been doing all these years. So yeah, well done.
Yeah, ka pai koutou. And for our whānau that are watching out there as well, if you're catching any of these ideas, kia kaha koutou, you might want to start your own $2, $100 club, and get all the whānau behind, because that's what this kōrero is all about, is helping each other and helping all of our other marae out there that are all in the same waka as well. So kia kaha koutou, kia kaha. Ka pai whānau, we've talked about a lot, and some of us have touched on some of the safety measures that we have at our marae. But a lot of our, especially when the mandates were dropped, a lot of our restrictions have been dropped. But are there any of them, for example, mask wearing, scanning in, and all of that sort of stuff? Have any of you as marae retained any of those practices and will continue to do them to keep whānau safe? And I'll come back to you, Anne, and we'll start back with you. Have you guys kept any of those practices to carry on? And also, even you spoke about the tikanga side as well, the hariru. Have you guys sort of suspended that, or you guys carrying on, or what's the go at Te Ahoro Marae?
We have suspended the QR codes. Like I say, we've gone along with what the government mandates are. So whatever they're saying that we do, that's what we're going to do. I just think it's easier to try and go with the flow of what people have to do everywhere else and just incorporate it into the marae tikanga while we're at it. As far as the hariru goes, I think that we're going to have to leave that up to the individuals. If they feel safe and comfortable about doing that, and the whānau that are there are happy for that, then by all means leave them to do that. I feel that we can't, like for our reopening, there was just not a thing we could do about it. And I just don't see that I myself would not want to say we can't do it. And I don't think any of my budding trustees would think differently. Yeah. So it would be business as usual for us. Yeah.
Ka pai, Anne. And what about you guys, Wikiwira at Maniaro? You guys taking down your QR codes, or are they still up and you're still encouraging whānau to scan and doing all of that stuff? What are you guys up to?
We've still got our QR codes up. We're not encouraging people to do it, but we know that many people still like to keep track of where they're going. And so we've still got them there in case people want to use them. I think, one thing that we're going to hold on to is having sanitizer everywhere, and having masks available everywhere for people, and so that it's easy for people to make that choice if that's what they want to do. But I do tautoko what Anne's saying about that, that line between safety and cultural wairua, and the same things for our tangi. When we see somebody who's in pain, the most thing that we want to do is to hug them and to be with them. So to a certain extent, we'll be stopping hongi, but when it comes to he mea wairua, it's kei a rātou.
Kia ora wiki. And Shannon, have you guys held on to any of the practices up at Tikoti Pa?
Yeah, the QR codes are still there. I suppose for a lot of us, we've gotten used to doing that. I mean, it's just become an integral part of what we do and where we go now. So they are still there, whether or not people scan in or not is another thing. But definitely the mask wearing of masks on the marae, anywhere on the marae. One thing I will say about the mask, though, is, to our people, is put them in the rubbish bin if you finish with them. You see them everywhere. They're in the, all over the place. They're on the road, in the driveway. They tend to just drop them wherever they are. So, I mean, because if you think about that, these implications of leaving masks lying around. And also with some of our whānau that, like what's been said previously, the emotional side of us takes over, I think, on the marae, and because that physical touch is a big part of our culture, I suppose for me personally to impede that would be quite difficult for some of our whānau, especially if whānau want to how do you do to the bereaved family, and just in generally speaking, we like to physically touch one another, but a lot of that hasn't been happening lately. But I suppose what I'll say there is just make sure, in the back of your mind, you're thinking about the safety of others. Because we've got a lot of vulnerable people out there, our kaumātua obviously, even tamariki that are unvaccinated. So just bear in mind that there's still vulnerable people, and that I suppose we'll leave the decision up to the individual whether they want to hariru or not. If they don't want to, fine. But you'll find, generally speaking, that we do want to. So yeah, we don't really want to impede that part of it.
Yeah, kia ora. Kia ora, Shannon. Yeah, tautoko. Your kōrero, bro. Definitely, it sometimes, even personally myself, it gets awkward when I go to a kaupapa. You don't know what the other person's up to. If they want the hongia, if they keeping their distance, it comes a little bit awkward. So it's good to get that sense. Or if there's rules in place in a particular place, then not to go in for the awkward hongi and the other person pulls away. You can steer away from those ones. So thank you for that, Shannon. Mihi ana kia koe. This is a question. And you guys can answer this one as from a personal perspective. What do you guys think has COVID-19 changed our maraes permanently, like forever? Do you think we're gonna be like this forever moving forward? What's your take on that question, Anne? You think it's gonna be like this forever, or do you think there's gonna be back to normal pre-COVID? What's your whakaaro on that one?
Well, that's a bit of a toughie, isn't it? Is it going to get back to normal? I'd like to think that it will, as normal as it can be, anyhow. I believe that we can't keep running away from what is out there. We have to start putting ourselves out there, and hopefully, of course, I always hope that nobody gets that sick that they become terminally ill with the infection. But if we want to move forward in life, we have to put ourselves out there. And so as far as the marae goes, I believe that if we encourage people to come back into it and start using it, after a while, it will just become the normal thing to do. Yeah, I don't think there's any other way around it.
Kia ora. Kia ora, Em. Thank you for that. Ka pai. Wiki Wira, what do you reckon? Has it changed our marae and our practices forever? What's your whakaaro?
Yeah, I think COVID, like Shan said before, is something that we have to find a way to live with. And I think if we think about each of our marae and the kawa and the tikanga that we have on those marae, and now correct me if I'm wrong e te whānau, because I'm not, I'm like tino mātanga, but my understanding of kawa is that it doesn't change. Our kawa doesn't change, and they're the guiding principles for what we do. Tikanga being the ways in which we make those kawa happen. And so my understanding, and I know that this is different for other people everywhere, is that tikanga can change, though kawa can't. So, he taonga tuku iho, kua tukuna mai e ngā atua i ngā kawa, and kawa comes from higher than us or more than us. And so the kawa that we hold on to, aroha, manaakitanga, manaaki tangata, those things, as long as those things stay alive, the tikanga may change, the hungi may go, but as long as those kawa stay alive, then our taonga tuku iho stay alive as well. Koera noi ho.
Kia ora. Tēnā koe, Wiki Wira. Tēnā koe. And you, Shannon, what's your whakaaro on that question, bro? Do you think it's changed our marae forever, or what's your whakaaro?
Yeah, I suppose because what is normal now? I think the normal that we once knew is somewhat different. So our people have been faced with a lot of adversity in relation to the COVID situation. But what I will say is we are resilient. We are resilient people, and we've been through something similar before in the past. That particular time, be it may 100 years ago, our people worked through that period of time, and I suppose they had to make dramatic changes because people were dying left, right, and centre at that time, and all tikanga and everything was suspended from the kōrero that I've been told around that period. So, and with the current situation, everybody's had to make changes. I suppose if we go back a few years, or did we ever think we'd have to deal with something like this? Probably not. I know I wouldn't have thought we had to do these things looking towards the future, but we were able to move through these changes, and I think a lot of our people have been able to comprehend what's been going on around them and make the changes necessary to live in the world we're living in. So, yeah, I think we'll get to a point in time where things are relatively normal, and hopefully all of this stuff will be left behind. Kia ora, Kaz.
Kia ora. Kia ora, Shannon. Kia ora. Thank you all for answering that question. It was a tough question, like Anne said. But yeah, I just wanted to gauge your guys' whakaaro personally or as a trustee. So thank you all for that answer. I've got another pato. So tonight, as I said before, and as we all know, Aotearoa will move into traffic light setting orange, which means a few changes, but in particular gatherings inside and outside. There will be no restrictions. So the question is, how does this impact our marae? Because that's a big one, the gatherings inside and outside. So I'll come to Te Aho marae and begin with you, Anne. What's the major impacts for you guys at the marae for that particular change?
I have to say I missed the kōrero this afternoon on TV, but from just what I've heard with other conversations I've had this evening, I would say that's going to uplift everything for the marae. It just means no longer do you have to worry about restricting your numbers. No, as long as people, I believe, still have to maintain a metre social distancing, I think it is. I mean, look, we could normally fit up to 200 people in our wharekai any other time. So to me, that says lifting that restriction, it's just going to make it easier for the whānau.
Kia ora, Anne. Thank you for that. And Wikiwira, Mani Aroa, what does that look like for you guys with no limits of the gatherings inside and outside?
Yeah, I think we're quite lucky that we have quite big spaces around us. So we operate kind of at larger levels as well. It just means that more people can be together with us. And I think it offers the opportunity for us to start looking at not only ways that we could use our marae as a conference space. If we're looking at how do we build our financials, we've got a beautiful view. How do we get into the corporate world and say to them, e te whānau, you could have a corporate retreat looking out at the sea, Puketapu on your left. So I think it opens up opportunities for us, and in particular for myself personally, it means that I can have a wedding where all my cousins can come now. Last year, my partner and I decided we were going to get married, and when that all happened, it all closed down all of those ideas about having all your cousins around and, you know, that hononga of two whānau coming together. So not just for myself, but others in our hapu and our iwi can now have those big get-togethers that they wanted to. And as trustees, I suppose it's up to us to make sure that we give them the tools to do it safely so that we don't become a meki super spreader. But it opens up opportunities and it opens our doors to all of our cousins.
Kia ora wiki wira, tēnā koe. And for you, Shannon, what does this mean for potentially pretty much our biggest marae in our rohe, gatherings inside and outside, no limits? What's the impacts for us at Te Kuiti Pā?
Yeah, I think like what was talked about previously, I think that'll bring about this sort of sense of normality on our marae. And because Te Kuiti Pā is a very busy marae, we have a lot of hui and quite large scale gatherings at times. Yeah, I think it'll just bring back that sense of normality. And also moving forward, there's a couple of big events that we're currently planning for on our marae. So our marae turned 150, well, the whare nui did, 150 years anniversary. So we had actually planned to have that in February, but obviously we were closed and we had to put the plans off. But we have resurrected those plans and looking to hold something in later on this year. So yeah, I think the implications of having no limits on numbers is going to be pretty good in general for everybody.
Ka pai, Shan. Thank you for that. Mihi ana kia koutou katoa, our trustees for our marae. That's our final pātai e te whānau. So thank you for that. And you brought some beautiful whakaro and some insights to our viewers out there that have tuned in on all night long. So e mihi ana kia koutou katoa. We have Ant from Te Aho Marae, tēnā koe. Wiki Wira from Mania Rō Marae, and also Shannon from Te Kuiti Pā. Nō reira, e mihi ana kia koutou ngā trustees of our marae. Tēnā koutou. E te whānau, we've also, just a reminder for our, let's have a look at our testing stations for here in Te Nehenehenui. Down the bottom there, you'll be able to see our testing stations. Also, you can go on to the Waikato DHB Facebook page and check out all the locations and the times as well. Also, for us specifically in Te Nehenehenui and in Te Kuiti, head to the Maniapoto Māori Trust Board, where they've posted for the times and for over Easter weekend for Te Oro Ngātai down in Te Kuiti. So definitely go and have a look at those e te whānau. Well, it's been a great night talking to our trustees and getting some insights and some kōrero from them and having a look at what it looks like to reopen our marae in our COVID world. So I hope you guys got some good kōrero out of that and learned something like I definitely did and got some good ideas. But thank you all for tuning in on our Facebook, our Twitter, and our YouTube. But for me, it's another Puna Kōrero out, and I'll see you guys for the next one. Nō reira, e mihi ana kia koutou, pō Mārie.